Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
For all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reach the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City!
Leicester Till I Die TV. Your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there. How the devil are we all? 2 wins on the trot. I haven't felt this good all season. We are looking back. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. You can get us on Facebook, Twitter. If you're on YouTube, which I think is still working, it's having a bit of a few hiccups for me. It's Leicester Till I Die TV. Please give us a subscribe if you haven't. It really, really does help the channel. And smash the likes on the video. And if you're going to be listening to this on the podcast, you know, I'm just blown away by our podcast figures. Unbelievable. Spotify, Amazon, Apple iTunes, Google Podcast Addict, to name but a few. This is the post-match reaction. You know what? I've kept her in the cupboard for so long this season. I let her out last week and she did say, Chris, if we win this week, am I going to be allowed out again?
Yes! 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 Oh! 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 Oh, God. Oh. I'll have what she's having.
You can only follow that with this.
It's time for the smug face.
I don't think I can do it quite as well as him. 2-0 to the boys in blue. Vikram, amazing. Oh, it was I haven't felt this good all season. Have you felt this good all season, Brad? Good evening to you.
Good evening, Chris. No. Probably a few weeks ago, back when we were getting knocked out of the FA Cup by Forest in embarrassing style, we probably thought we'd never see this season. So it was nice. It wasn't pretty. It definitely wasn't as I'd argue we were far better against Burnley in an attacking sense than we were today. But what matters is what I always like to say is that matters is the scoreline, and the scoreline's very pleasing, and it's probably another weight off the shoulders as well, because the last 2 games, all right, on paper, seem easier for Leicester, but we come up against a Burnley side that are in a good run of form, just when we don't need them to be. We come up against a Leeds side who have that new manager bounce effect with the sudden departure and hiring of Jesse March and Bielsa respectively, and you think, oh God, here we go. This is just a test we need when we finally get a win. But they did it. They got the points. They got the 3 points and deserved it in the end, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just on that basis alone.
Yep. Spencer, good afternoon or good evening, good morning, good day. I'll cover all my bases. Casper was great. Facebook user, not sure of your name there because you're just on Facebook, but hi from Seattle. Bye. What time was it over there? I mean, I reckon it was 12:30 kickoff. I reckon about 6:30 in the morning, something like that in Seattle. You know, Scott, good evening, sir. Hello, Chris and Brad. Vital win today, very gruesome at times. But again, like I said, that 2 clean sheets in a row, like buses. We wait all season to come together, don't they? I mean, I did the watch along with the Leeds fan, and I did actually manage to get in that, are you crying into your Hovis? Even though I did feel a little bit, I shouldn't have really been saying it because we weren't necessarily the best. I mean, had that game, and I know it's ifs, buts, maybes, but they were definitely an improved Leeds from recently. You know, 14 goals in 3 games, down to 1-0. They had, and we'll talk sort of shots on target and everything later, but they were an improved Leeds. And had that ended as a draw, I don't think we could have complained.
No, I think, you know, maybe how Leicester fans felt against, you know, when we played against Wolves at Molineux and maybe even the West Ham game at the King Power, you know, they probably feel a bit aggrieved that they haven't come away with something. But, you know, we've said this a few times this season, and it's one that I like to stand out when the facts and the stats are put up, and that is, if you don't take the chances, you know, resolute defending as well as great goalkeeping, you know, aside, if you don't take them chances you're given in the game, in any league you'll get punished, but most notably you tend to get punished in the Premiership, and that's exactly what Leicester did. And you know what, first 5 minutes I think we were far the better team in terms of, you know, catching Leeds out better. I think you've seen a bit more defensive shape, you know, and it's great credit because yet again, guess what Leicester didn't have? The same back four as the previous game. We had Chowdhury this time taking the hot seat at right back. So again, considering everything, I think it was actually quite a good, solid performance in terms of that they did just about enough over the course of the 90 to see that through. So yeah, it was very good. And just an update: Crystal Palace are 2-0 up, and Brentford have 1-0 up.
Oh. God.
So,
right. I'll worry about that. You might be catching me up on the old prediction chart. I mean, that was the team that came out. I mean, Chowdhury, as you know, I've liked Chowdhury, and I thought he was our best player against Liverpool in defence. But right back...
Yeah, it completely baffled me. I mean, I've downloaded an app called Fanbase. I'm not going to advertise it because it's not sponsoring this channel anyway, but I use it. Basically, it gives you a chance to predict the lineup, and you get, obviously, marks out of 11. And I got 10 out of 11 today, and I had no idea. If you said to me, where were you going to miss the player and get one wrong, I'd have thought maybe it was Lookman and Madison.
Yeah.
I would never have bet that in a million years that Hamza Chowdhury would be the player in that 11, especially when it's at right back. Yeah, but you know what? I'm not going to question Brendan when it works for him. It works for him. I'll question him when it goes horribly wrong. But today,
indeed,
you know, it came out strong. It ended with a clean sheet, and then eventually we did what I thought we'd do, which was play Albrighton at right back. But
well, that's when I looked at that, I'm thinking like, okay, Maddison, you know, we've got Reynolds coming up on midweek, and if he has got a bit of a twinge, we'll need him for that. Same with Ricardo, so I got that. But I thought, well, why isn't either A, Albrighton back there because he's played him there, or B, moved Amati out to the right back and stick Chowdhury, because we know Chowdhury did well, let's say, against Liverpool in the centre, but then Amati once again had an amazing game.
Yeah, he did. Like I said, if there's a thing for most improved player, He probably wins that award already at this point in the season. He's come on leaps and bounds this season. A lot of people did start to note on the last show that he's hit that age where centre-back starts coming to their own. So maybe this is just what we should have expected with Daniel Amartey coming in, finding his own feet around this age that he's at now. It was a strange one. I feel that maybe the only logical reasoning I came up for it was Leeds had obviously played to a higher line with being a lot more direct with their play. Maybe Leicester did some research on his coaching style, so preempted it. Because what you did find a lot, even though they didn't come off, was you feel with Albrighton, and this is probably the difference in the midfielder or right midfielder or whatever position they're playing at that point you want to call it. But there's the difference between Albrighton and Lootman is Lootman will drive and get past defenders and then play a ball or other go itself. Whereas Albrighton can play that killer pass 30 yards up the pitch. And yeah, okay, they didn't come off today, like I just said, but they nearly came off. And that's what you're going to get with Albrighton. Leeds try and hit you on the counter. He's more defensive in the sense that he doesn't push up as far as like a Ricardo or a Lootman does on that side. He does his job, he's reliable. We probably needed to help Chowdhury out a bit on the defensive side of things. So that's what he was there for. And that's where maybe Brendan, like I said, it sounds like maybe Brendan did his homework on this Jesse March and figured out that they're not going to play the way that they did under Bielsa. He's going to try and dramatically alter a side's way of going about things, because that's probably more difficult than making 6 or 7 changes to start and line up. It's completely changing the structure of how they go about things. So to do that, I've got to give a bit of credit for him if that was his idea and that was his plan, because it could have worked. He got a few balls just in behind it Vardy couldn't quite get onto. So in the end, I wasn't actually that bothered about Chowdhury being at right back. I barely noticed him peeling out of place, to be perfect.
There's a few players again, and it's unfair to sort of say, well, these players don't get a mention or you don't see them on screen, so they're having a bad game. But David says, hello to you both, slightly laboured performance at times. And I think we've made Leeds better than they have been recently, considering results. We gave them too much room. But I say the new manager had made a big impact, according to, say, Connor, who is the a Leeds fan on the watch along earlier. Jeff, welcome back, mate. Hope you've had your breakfast. Performance doesn't matter when you get the 3 points. Well, how often have we said this season that things have gone against us? VAR's sort of sometimes gone against us, and the performance, we haven't got the results that the performance deserved. And so maybe our luck is changing. Thanks again, Chris, for the watch along. You're more than welcome. You're able to get there's a few problems depending on, you don't use his goal, but apparently there's a few problems with that are popping up. Amanda, good evening, good afternoon, good morning again. How are you? Scott, have you love your stats? Am I right in thinking 2 clean sheets and Vestergaard not getting into the team at all, even as a sub? I know it's 2 clean sheets. Let's just enjoy it. Let's not kick anybody when we've just had a win. Amartey is the last from the old guard backline of Huth Morgan era. They were solid. Yes, indeed they were. David, how the devil are you? Welcome along. Static, hi Chris and Brad. Well done to Leicester. Thank you very much, Static. I've got Arsenal down for a win, so don't let me down. I need the points in the prediction league. And just to say, we're probably going to be we've got Arsenal next week, Static, and I think with Anthony, I'm going to be doing another watch along, possibly, which you can't go and No, Brad, I can see you having a little smile there. But let's just say it's 2-2 now, 2 losses followed by 2 wins. So I'm on a run.
I'll have to take it going into a 3-2 Leicester on terms of win-losses on the Leicester Tell channel of watch-alongs. And that's what Leicester have got to go into the next couple of weeks. Just to quickly touch on Arsenal like you have there, because this is a real thing now for Leicester in terms of we've talked before about not getting the results or feeling we didn't get the points the performances have warranted. And we're experiencing the joys of football, but this really is now. And I know people will say don't get carried away, it's Burnley and Leeds, but like I said, the way Leicester season's been this season, we came up against a Burnley side that I think were unbeaten in football, and we were all sat here going, "Oh Christ, here we go, they're going to add to that." And then we get a Leeds side that just when they're in turmoil and look like they're going to come here under Bielsa, sack him and replace him with a manager, and then you're thinking, "Oh God, new manager bounce." It's been quite successful this season. Villa, and Norwich have profited well from new manager bounces. I would say Newcastle have profited from it, but when you're already at rock bottom under Steve Bruce, you can't really bounce too much higher than that. But I suppose they have. He's brought in the players that seemingly, given the state of things right now, going into half-time in their games, has had that new manager bounce. So Leicester fans again feared it. So now they've got to capitalise on it. They've got to go at Rennes, give a good account of themselves, and if they can come out of that game still in the tie, or even better, in front in the tie, they'll feel confident as a group going into that Arsenal game. So
looking at our playing, it's kind of almost like hard, easier game. So we haven't got a run of sort of bad games. Louise, good afternoon. How are you? Welcome along. Louise, hopefully will be joining Leicester Till I Die and doing the weekend review show with me on Monday or Tuesday night. So welcome along, Louise. As good looking as Brad is, I'm sure it would be nice to have a young lady on. Well, lady, I'm not so sure about young, but I'll let you.
She's not doing it, Chris. Now you should have.
I'm digging my hole. Sorry, Louise, I'm digging my hole there. Jeff, Amarty's more effective as a centre back than the right. Yes, he definitely is. 8 hours ahead of you, so not yet breakfast time. Arsenal we have next, Louise. Cyber Leader, how are you, mate? We're very good. Have you got over Southampton yet? Sorry about that, mate. But hey, happens to the best of us. Maisie, welcome along. Good evening. How the devil are you? At least you have won this weekend. Oh, did the ladies beat us? Did you? Well,
yeah, it was a bit of a comprehensive win for the Manchester United ladies, to be fair. But at the end of the day, if you look at our league table stuff, this is the ladies' first ever season in the Women's Super League. And considering before that, speaking of new manager bounces, Leicester hadn't won a game, not even a point on the board. And now, I believe 7 or 8 points clear of Birmingham sat at the bottom. So I'm happy that Manchester United
first season up there.
Yeah,
coming up soon.
I'll take that. I'm not too fussed about
coming up soon. John Joe Morgan, I think it is, the ex-Leicester City women's manager, will be coming on Leicester Till I Die to have a chat with us about all things Leicester, men and women. So that's something to look forward to. So the ex-Leicester City women's manager coming on the channel soon. Static Leicester favourites to win against Arsenal. Well, we wanted to lose, said West Ham. It's easy to say when you've lost. Tough week, but not impossible, Louise. Indeed. So we can be ready for Seville. Oh, well, yeah, we'll see, mate. There's only one team beating them, is it, in Europe so far?
That'd be ours. We're the only team that have beaten Seville, an English side. Thank you very much. So if you can do that, at least then you'll be known as the second English team to beat Seville.
Four wins to Man United, apparently. And he's off to McDonald's. Get me a Big Mac and fries, please. Sorry,
same here, mate. Go on.
Yeah, I have it delivered with Uber, but I've never had a warm McDonald's delivered so far yet. So, okay, so like I say, I think if it had ended 0-0, 1-1, etc., we couldn't have complained. But it was one of those games. I'm sure it was more exciting for the neutral than it was for maybe a Leicester or a Leeds fan. But there was periods when we were totally dominating, and that start of the second half, my God, it was all Leeds. We were sort of, having to sort of do a rear guard action. And I thought it was going to be one of those games where, this is going to come back and bite us on the bum. Typical Leicester.
I mean, yeah, you can understand. And again, given the frailties of Leicester's situation, yes, obviously it was great to get the win against Tuesday, but we've seen some false dawns. And that's not to say that this might not be a case of win these two, then we go to Arsenal and, you know, something goes
Yes.
wrong there. I don't want to jinx it on the head of it, but it's nice and it's refreshing. And again, the confidence will be, people might not realise it, but psychologically, then players have gone into the dressing room, you know, they've scrapped one out, they've dug in deep, you know, everything seems to really work. Because, you know, and a credit to the manager who's come under a bit of stick, and a few Leicester fans are probably tired of him, and maybe still are, but maybe they're willing to give him a bit more time and a chance to correct what's been a torrid first half of the season, if we're honest. So, you know, because he made the tactical changes just when Leeds were starting to overawe things. He made that changes. He dropped Albrighton back to where we thought he was going to start, which was at right back. He put Lukeman on to get us in behind a bit quicker, that back line, because I think we had lost that impetus down that right side.
It was all going down the left for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And that's what I mean. I feel we lost that impetus because we kind of made ourselves susceptible to being, and I've said it a few times this season, a bit predictable about which side we're going to attack because of depending on the personnel that's on the right side, it seems. But it changed the complexity.
Just to say there, the Leeds fan was saying they had Rafinha on the right-hand side, which is our left. So neither side were particularly doing much down the right.
No, they weren't. But I mean, Leicester may have came into this game with a bit of a different mentality to what we're expecting. Because if this is Leicester on like a 4 or 5 game league winning streak, and I know they technically are now on a 3 game winning streak with the win at Randers included in this, 3 wins in a row, and that. But they played today in a manner that was good. It was positive to try and win it. You know, because, you know, we tried to get in behind and we tried to attack that high line that Leeds were holding. And in the end, you know, it told, because even though Leeds had the better chances, you would say clear-cut chances, I would argue that Leicester's were potential to be more devastating if they got in behind a bit more. And then when they did, it was Leicester's moments of brilliance. You know, they've extended that 5-yard passing ability to about 10 to 15 yards, like I've been asking for about 3 months, and it worked. They played 3 lovely passes to each other, and yes, Leeds still had a couple of chances after that goal, but it really did take the edge out of their game because all of a sudden they realised they couldn't be as high line. They had to focus on defending, because had they not, and it nearly happened, Leicester were going to get in behind it and kill the game off, which is what happened to Burnley.
You could totally see for those few minutes after we scored, well, probably about 10 minutes or so, Leeds were just like, you know, they didn't know what had hit them. You know, I thought we were going to get a second. Anthony, good afternoon. How are you? It was an excellent win for us. Like Brad just said, 3 on the bounce. No, 4 on the bounce, isn't it? Because if you have Randers, Burnley, are they all in order? Randers,
I think Randers' first leg was in between Wolves game, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay.
I believe. I could be wrong.
Anthony, we are going to be doing the watch along. Are you up for the watch along next week? Arsenal against Leicester. If you are, I am. So let's do it. Let's get it on. Performances recently have improved across the back mostly, which has pleased fans. But getting points on the board will help build the confidence of the players. And Bcrom. I've been a Rodgers out critic, but I give him a 10 out of 10 score for managing today. Well, then Bacrom, that's all. We're all the same, aren't we? We're all sort of looking at it and going, yeah, we have a go at him when we are down. So respect to you for coming on and saying that when we win. Oh, Anthony, right, mate, it's a date. I'll wear a white rose so you recognise me. I'll be at the bar. I will see you next. Is it Saturday or Sunday when we play? Just looking here, let me just bring the results up here because let's have a look. So we had, yes, you're quite right. We had Randers 1, then Burnley, and then, yeah, this game, didn't we? Yes. Yeah, Lisa. Three in a trot. Sunday, Anthony, not a problem. Now, one.
Burnley, if you want to look at that as a bigger picture, it's also 4 wins out of 5. If you want to take the entirety of Randers, both sides of it, then it's 4 wins out of 5.
I'll take anything if it works out, looks good for us. A lot of half-time results coming in. Palace 2-0 up, Brentford 1-0 up, Newcastle 2, Southampton are losing 2-0 at Villa, Burnley are holding Chelsea. Well, Dan's happy at least. But let me ask you this, because I find it hard to criticise when we've won. Thanks, Anthony. I've got that now. I do find it hard to criticise, but what was the point of Inacho off for Vardy? Inacho cannot play as a one up front. Yes, he can hold the ball up, but we weren't winning at that point. I didn't get that one.
I mean, I didn't at the start, but it's obviously very clear that that's Rodgers' way of one thing he's holding on to. He wants to be able to play a system to probably get the most talent out there on the pitch, especially when we're on good form. It's a formation that Leicester are very midfield strong in that central part. You've got Tielemans, you've got Dewsbury Hall, you've got Ndidi, you've got Lootman, you've got Barnes, you've got Maddison, obviously. So you've got a lot of players there that you have to fit into your team. And then when they're on good form, like they have been recently, especially Dewsbury Hall, Barnes has been great for us back in goal contribution. Maddison's been great. So, you're trying to make a way for them to go. Unfortunately, I think it's come to the part where the necessity of the squad has overruled what's better for one individual. But to be credit to him, with the high line and Ian actually being a deeper player striker, he actually did afford to confuse Leeds a bit. There were some points, and Leeds were very strange there. I mean, they had Ayling playing at centre-back, which isn't natural for him, and stuff like that. And sometimes you found, and literally just before the goal, they got confused themselves and whether to push or come out or sit back, and they got in a muddle, and that's sort of where the goal sort of came from, because Inacho being that deep laying forward, as it's probably more predominantly called, was a bit deeper in his own half, but that allowed Barnes to then coast into that middle, which is where he's probably most deadly from, where he stands just in line with that corner of the box. And because of that link-up play, and because, Barnes is then going to drive into the box, and Inacho's near enough level with him that he can turn and get into a position to maybe knock in a rebound or get a ball played to him that's beating the outstretched defender, and he gets a tap in that way. I think it actually worked in the end. It was clearly something Leicester planned. They were trying to play a high line against a high line in terms of their attacking line, and it wasn't quite working. We nearly got in a few times and we had a few chances, but we actually did look a lot better when we were receiving that ball a bit closer to the high press to get in behind them, because Leeds then felt the need to sit back a bit more, and that allowed Leicester to get their attacking players like Barnes and Lootman more central to become effectively a front three, because they were a bit stretched in that first half and for the majority of that second half when Vardy was out there, because Luton's, because I saw them on my TV, Leeds felt they could play that higher line even forward at them and catch Vardy out, maybe for an offside.
Big Com here says Inacho got an assist on Barnes' goal. Yes, he did. But when I saw Inacho coming on, I'm a little bit pleased him and Vardy up front together again. Yes, let's do it. Dan is saying we should be 2-0 up. Chelsea, by the way, if Chelsea are watching and Tuchel's sort of a bit bored in the half-time break, watch the highlights of the Leicester-Burnley game. That shows you how to beat them, Chelsea. Just a bit of advice there for you, Tuchel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Jordan. How are you? And Scott, I think Inacho being brought on for Vardy was strange. However, he clearly felt that Inacho could link up better and control the ball, which would help Barnes and Lookman. I mean, I tell you, it's just that when you look at it as Inacho as a striker, you're thinking, again, and we know he knows where the net is, but we won. It's a minor thing at the end of the day that I would have made bigger had we lost. I'm not going to lie, but and I'll just say, I've got sort of important information for you, and as soon as we've just had this little quick break, because I do feel we should watch this again, and I'll be announcing it.
Very easily by Leeds. That was a casual ball. Leeds! Leeds scored its first goal for the Foxes, and what a pitch! Leicester 2-1. You start crying into your home, it's my son. 1-0. Get in. Stuff come better out of the blocks. Just need to handle it now. Oh my God! Yeah! 2-0 to Leicester. Baldicock gets his second of the season for the Foxes. Leicester City 2, Dirty Leeds 0. Sullivan to stick with him. Sullivan.
Oh, I tell you what, I know there's more, but I'm going to cut it short. I can't stop watching that. I absolutely love. I didn't celebrate quite like that on the watch along because I think I would have had a heart attack. But for those that know that have been following us this weekend, so Anthony, it's for you as much as anybody. It is a little extra little bit, and I'm going to have to sort of have a bit of an intro for it, but it's the how long since Tottenham Hotspur won a trophy segment, and it is now 14 years, 4 days, 22 hours, 27 minutes and 56 seconds. We will have an update for you later in the show, I am sure.
You could play that music, couldn't you? Like, there's like, is it violin or fiddle music that you hear? I think it's like I always think it's got an Italian style beat to it. I can't remember. I'll talk to you about it after the show, but I think I've got something you could use to bring it up with every time each time that you do a stream, mate.
Yeah, nice talking back to subs. Nice to see Mendy getting some minutes.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of nice, to see him getting some minutes out there. And it was nice. It was just very straightforward. It was a straightforward swap. It wasn't a case of dragging a Dewsbury Hall off or someone like that to go two defensive midfielders. Yeah. But again, everybody, managers do say they're always learning on the job. Or maybe Rogers is one of the subscribers to this channel, because ever since we started mentioning not stop bringing on defensive-minded subs, he stopped doing it unless it's a like for like. So
he always asks for a transcript of this show for you, especially for your tactics board.
Yeah, I noticed he's taking them on board as well. I noticed they're happening. So, I'm starting to think, Rogers, just give me a job, mate. I'll take it.
Anthony's kind of liking the new feature. I am going to have to definitely do an intro for it. I'm just going to write that down, Spurs intro. I think we could make it a regular part of the show, don't you? I see why not. Why not? Jeff, last couple of games we felt Brendan's substitutions have changed, but we won both. Exactly. We can sit here. We don't get paid the big bucks to make these decisions, but we don't get sacked or moaned about in the press if they go wrong. So, and we give him praise when he gets it right. Like I say, we're doing well. Pretty, Wolves aren't doing us any favours against Palace, but, hey ho, there we go.
Well, technically they are. If you look at that league table, given the situation it's in, if you look at where Leicester are probably looking to hopefully make a late dash and achieve things, it's probably not a bad result for Leicester seeing Wolves lose, is it? Because it means we've gained some points on them. So I don't know, maybe in the long run, that's not a bad result so far.
We've gone down to 12th, so in the space.
I know. Looking at that way, it's bad. But if you look at it in terms of, there's 4 or 5 teams now on 33, points, and you look at where Wolves are. You look at the game in hand situation. I know points on the board over games in hand. I'm a big advocate of it. But you do start to feel a bit more positive about them games in hand when you win 2 on the bounce, don't you? You look at that and it's obviously it's a lot of hard work ahead of Leicester, and they still have to have a very incredible end to the season. But you start looking at a result like that and thinking, well, all right, I'll take that now.
It is funny because you say you've got Palace on 33, Villa on 33, Leicester on 33. And Brighton on 33. And Dan, you must be happy because at the moment, I know Everton aren't playing till Monday night, but you are out the bottom 3 on goal difference.
Goal difference kings, you'll never sing that. That's what they'll be singing when they win it.
It's only 3 actually. It's tighter than it looks actually, because there's only Burnley a -10 at the moment, Everton a -13. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Goals. Barnes is back. Like you say, Nacho got the assist. Did you see the goal?
Yes, I did.
Talk us through it. It looked to be a really good move.
Yeah, it was, and it was something that Leicester seemed to try and spring more in that second half. And it's funny, it came about from the changes. I think Leicester felt the need to up the tempo a little bit. I look at the timing of the change for Iheanacho and think that was probably more to do with the way Brendan was wording his return to the team. He obviously was very eager to play against Burnley, so Brendan opened that door for him to get some minutes, and boy, did he take advantage of him. I think the plan was probably we were always going to see about an hour-ish of Vardy. So it was obviously something Leicester clearly worked on to expect to get 30 minutes or so of Leicester playing a different style. And it was Leicester-esque, wasn't it? Because they just got the ball in early. The player just took the ball in his stride, turned it, laid it off, got his head down, got in the box, 1-2 with Barnes, 4 goals in the last 4 meetings against Leeds. Harvey Barnes has scored, and he just enjoyed it. He just enjoyed it. He looked good, and it was a good goal. It was Barnes-esque, wasn't it? It was Harvey Barnes doing Harvey Barnes things. 9 times out of 10, when you see him cutting from that left-hand side of the box, you're thinking that's a goal, and he bent it in beautifully. And and then Leicester did the rest of the job they needed to do for that. Last 20 minutes, which was not just see the win out, but make sure that Leeds, I think objective number 1 today, like you said, would have probably taken 0-0 if we're being honest as well. I think that was the biggest plus for the game. Objective number 1, make sure Leeds stay at 0, and they did that.
Indeed. Big Crom there says Barnes, Lookman in the Salah, Mane roles and Iheanacho in the Firmino roles shows Rodgers' evolution as a manager. It's funny football, isn't it? 2 weeks ago, we were all, we weren't all, sorry. There was I certainly wasn't in the Rodgers out brigade, but a lot of people were. And now, of course, a couple of wins later, we've got to give him that time. And I think knowing that we're going to be losing Tielemans, it's the other players that we've got to try and tie down to contracts, like the Barnes. Ricardo's obviously signed. If we can get all those signed, and if get a few players in from the Tielemans money, the future's looking bright again, Brad.
Yeah, it is, and again, it's something we've already touched on. That yes, obviously Leicester will probably need to find a third midfielder, but in terms of more recruited and backup, because obviously there's still, unless something happens, it's going to be, Maddison, Dewsbury Hall are going to be that pairing in the middle alongside Ndidi for next season. But yeah, you look at it as a whole and you think if you tie that Lootman deal up, I'm a big fan of Lootman. Yeah. We've got a very diverse team all of a sudden, as well as good quality on the pitch and on the bench, which is something that Leicester had been lacking in. We remember at the start of the season and maybe towards the end of the season when Leicester were doing a Leicester job, as everybody was calling it, falling from 4th to 5th like it was the world's greatest failure in football and history, like making European football, unlike certain Arsenal and Tottenham teams. Oh,
yes.
And, Leicester fans probably got into a point where they were saying, maybe this is going to be a season where we get it the wrong way round. We have a poor first half and then have a good end to the second half. And again, I know this is just 2 wins on the bounce, but it's something we haven't managed at all this season. Yeah. So it is a lot bigger, and that'll bring more of a confidence. That'll give the lads more of a confidence going forward into the next couple of games than, say, a 3-2 win or a scrappy 2-1 win where we leave it late or Leeds get a late goal and we're defending at 6s or 7s like we were before. Even in the Wolves game, which was a much better performance, we were defending a bit scrappy, and we'd only just started to see the hoof ball, as they call it, come back into Leicester's defending instead of trying to be neat and fancy with it, which was ironically pleasing on the eye. But yeah, it's just one of them now where we've just got to keep it going. It's got to keep looking good, and maybe we do get what we asked for. We get a better end to the second half of the season. We make a push for Europe, and the guys were saying on Leicester lcfc radio, which I had on at some point for my commentary, they were saying, it might sound ridiculous, but the overall confidence that Leicester would have gained as a whole for them 2 games, and you almost felt the way the fans celebrated the full-time whistle. You felt the weight off the fans' shoulders, like they could actually enjoy a game maybe on Thursday night or against Arsenal a bit more than the nerves allowed. And if they do that, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, well, you beat Rennes, maybe.
Yeah.
And then you go and beat Arsenal. You start looking at things a whole different level. Well, maybe we can actually win this Conference League. Maybe we can sneak into 7th place if we keep a run going. And it just shows how quickly an atmosphere in the club can completely change.
And it does change round. Sorry to interrupt. It does change round very quickly.
Yeah.
A few wins.
Opinions of many.
Europe is not out of the realms of possibility at all. Scott says, I have a good feeling we won't sign Lookman after what Rogers said. I have news to me on that one. Apparently Chelsea have just scored, according to Jeff. So now I was very critical with these sort of figures when we played Randers. The fact of how many shots they had.
And you also said if a better side played against us like that, they'd win it.
I did. And I think if a better side than Leeds, if a better side than Leeds had played against us today.
Oh, no. So you're up in the stakes now. So we've got the ball up to Leeds United standards of football. Okay, so we've gone from Randers up there. Okay,
no.
All right, fair enough, mate.
I think you're going to admit that Leeds is not a team that, all right, they've got a new manager. Bounced and whatever.
No, I understand where you're coming from.
I know what you're saying, and I take it on the chin. But yeah, I mean, Leeds step up from Randers, but they're not a Chelsea and what have you. If you did that against a Chelsea or a Man City or a Liverpool, we wouldn't have won it. But having said that, was that in Rodgers' mind? Was that in Rodgers' game plan? Let them have the ball, hit them on the break, because that's what we virtually did.
I mean, again, you have to assume that Rodgers did as much homework as physically possible in them 3 or 4 days that they would have been able to train on and prepare for today's game. Maybe not even that, but and saw that maybe they'd take a different approach, and that it wouldn't be what Leeds fans and the Premier League's accustomed to with Leeds, which was that send it long, get it up the pitch, sort of. It was more. It wasn't like that under Bielsa. We was very direct by Leeds, and Leeds did try to, pick at that Achilles heel of Leicester's defence, where although Leicester hadn't been conceding goals from it too much in recent times, there was still that susceptibility in the mindset maybe of fans and players alike that.
Jeff says there only one stats matter. Goal scored, totally 100%. It is, but then again, it's part of the game, and opt to make a lot of money off providing stats. So they are good to look at sometimes. But the main one, obviously, is that one that I have at the bottom of the screen there that says 1-0 to Leicester. Burnley back in the bottom 3. Sorry, guys, but that didn't last long.
Brentford have a penalty as well, by the way.
Who?
Brentford have a penalty.
Right. Okay, looking at that performance, and I know you've seen it because you've retweeted it, but Alan Bennett's, I remembered his name this week, Alan Bennett's match stats, which he does basically straight after the game. So, and he's at the game, so he sees more than we do on the telly. He gave man of the match to Harvey Barnes, which I kind of, let me just move that out of the way, which I kind of guess I could see that coming. But I think he had a good game, definitely had a good game. 8 for the manager, 7 for the team. Thoughts on that, Brad?
Yeah, I think he got it right. The man of the match, you could probably argue, because he did have to make some vital saves, was Kasper Schmeichel. I think as reliant as our defence was, I mean, Soyuncu and Daniel Marty have to be in that talking point. They made some vital blocks in that game, and when Leeds were pressing for that goal, that opening goal. But the manager definitely deserves the credit he's got in terms of the 8. I think he got it very spot on. Ever since Brendan's been here, he's had us question his lineup at some point, but it proved dividends to work today, and the way Leicester went through the gears was probably what won them the game in the end. I think turning that pace on in the second half, ironically, by having Kelechi and actually come on for, Vardy might sound a bit strange, but Lookman coming on and giving us that impetus on the right, and Vardy, and Vardy or Brighton dropping back to right back, so he was pressing that far. Really helped Leicester, and in the end, that's what's told, and that's an important point. Villa are 3-0 up.
Yeah, you know, I love looking at how the fans that vote on the BBC look at their match ratings, and I think they agreed. And in fairness, Schmeichel, I think, won it on BT Sport as well. Chelsea are 2 up again as well.
Yeah, they've just gone 2-0 up. That's got worse for them.
Scott's just said Schmeichel, man of the match for him. Yeah, I mean, and he got the most votes. Barnes got the second most. In fact, he was only 0.1 behind Schmeichel. Vardy was up there again, blue tinted spectacle time. I don't think he had a particularly good game. Inacho was up there, but you know, we were just saying then about Amati. I mean, Schmeichel was man of the match with 7.26 on the Leicester team. Where are we? Marty got 5.81.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I say, where was it? Marty got 5.81. So, yeah, that's a bit weird. But apparently, overall on the BBC, the overall man of the match was Daniel James.
It's what? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Daniel James was the BBC viewers' overall man of the match.
What did Daniel James really do?
Nothing. He cut through the defence a few times, but he was their main striker. He didn't score.
I'm just a bit baffled, I want to say, by that man of the match, because
I think it's the fact that Leeds probably have more supporters watching or completing that BBC thing than possibly Leicester do.
Possibly. I mean, another thing to look at it, and again, this is why I always kind of grimace when I see stats, even when it's good stats for Leicester. I kind of go, meh. I can argue both sides of it. I actually saw the big breakdown of the stats.
Fucking Villa 4, Southampton 0. Sorry.
Yes,
Jesus.
4-0. But it's the fact is, you could argue Leeds had more shots and whatnot, but again, they didn't have many more on target by my knowledge, and we actually still had more touches of the ball. So even though it might look like Leeds were all over Leicester and Leicester smashed and grabbed, it really wasn't that, especially the way the first half was end to end and like a basketball game in that sense. But also, and Burnley are 3-0 down now.
Yeah, it's all going a bit tits up.
I don't think it was actually a game that reflects the top line of stats that everybody seems to just jump to and look at and go, oh, surely that was a smash and grab. Yes, Brighton. Sorry, I just saw Brighton have scored. That's not biased at all. No bias there
at all. No bias there.
Yeah, no bias at all in that.
You know. Moving on, then we're going to have your Brad's board.
Oh, Brentford have another penalty, I think. Sorry.
We're going to have Brad's board in a minute.
Yes, we are.
We're going to have to keep it short because we've had some long answers today, so we can keep it short. But moving on, go and get it ready, set, and we will introduce it. And we'll be back with it. We will be back with it straight after I press the right button, which will be this one. Yeah, please do subscribe if you can. It really does help us out. Potter now Brad's favourite manager, Jeff. Yeah, we've seen that. That has happened. Scott says Amati seems to be playing better as a sweeper. He's just amazing at the moment this season. Anyway, Brad, a couple of minutes over to you, and here we have a look. If only Sky could do this.
I know, right? I do like to try and up the standards of these things. So, this season has been a lot of my tactic board. Has seen me talk about a very brittle and very, very, very fragile defence. But today I want to talk about our attacking line and, more importantly, the way Leicester City changed their mantra to deal with Leeds throughout the 90 minutes. And what it sort of did is, in a way, unfortunately for Vardy, is it kind of isolated him a bit. Because the most notable thing that you may have noticed in the first half was obviously that that obviously this side of the area, the right side, was always going to be an area of weakness in a defensive point from a Leicester's perspective. And given the players that Leeds had attacking that side, it was an area of concern, not in the distrust of Chowdhury's inability at right back or lack of experience as a right back. It was more that than it was the personnel that played right back, because of, Hamza Chowdhury, when performing this season for Leicester, has performed very well. I think a few times he may have got caught out a bit, but with defensive-minded line of Albrighton and the way he plays, some killer passes, trying to get in behind that defensive line of any team that we come up against when he plays as the right mid or the right wing back. So, that was probably where Leicester were trying to catch him, because that was the high defensive line there that Leeds were holding. It was probably just short of the halfway line. But what it kind of meant was Leicester were a bit restricted to where they were, like I said earlier, a bit obvious as to where they were attacking. Because this is probably about as far on more occasions that, that Albrighton was in line with a press along with Luke Thomas, whereas Harvey Barnes, who was forced to stay out wide so Leicester could try and spread it, kind of meant that there was probably a big gap between himself and Vardy. And normally what is asked of and what Harvey Barnes likes to be able to do is, when Leicester are on that press, is he likes to be able to operate that line of coming inside a bit more, to be a bit closer to the attacking striker, whether that's Vardy, Inacho or Daka this season, which we've seen a mix of, and help get in behind that back line, and that maybe freed up the midfielders to push in. But with the defensive mind and the way Albrighton tends to get the ball into the box a bit more from deeper areas than Leicester, it left us a bit stretched. But it also meant that if Leeds did play any defensive balls in between, which is where Leeds try to attack with more direct through the middle passing, and obviously their area of strength was down that right, trying to attack the fact that we had an inexperienced right back in Hamza Chowdhury there. But what that actually allowed Leicester to do is yes, Leeds got in behind a few times, and they did have some very good chances, which people may argue that obviously better quality would have got in front and taken them chances. But again, I would retort that with, you can only play what's in front of you. But what that allowed for Leicester to do, and I will just mark this up quickly, is it allowed our defensive side to kind of hold that fort and watch the runs either side of them and deal with any direct passage of ball, or even if it was more deeper in the half, any balls that were potentially knocked in behind the back line, because they already had a defensive structure, with Mark Albrighton not being as adventurous as a Lootman or a Pereira is. He was more times than not already in that defensive recovery position. So even though Leicester were holding their high, even if Leicester were holding a high defensive line, any balls in behind or any balls straight through the middle were a lot more easier for Leicester to actually deal with. And that's something that was quite pleasing on that front. But I'll just quickly end with the goal, which I thought was very good. And, probably since his tenure, me and Chris, respectively, have both sat there and questioned the lineup, questioned seeing an Albrighton at left back, questioned seeing Ricardo Pereira as a centre midfielder or something daft like that, because God knows what he's done when he's put some teams together sometimes. But they've always, more times than not, I would say, they've come out better in it, and they've seemed to work. And this is where Leicester made the most influential change of the half. It was the two substitutions. First of all, it was Lootman coming on for Albrighton, and it was actually, strangely enough, Ian actually coming on for Vardy. Something we've not really said this season being so impactful, but it was in terms of the goals, because not only are Lootman and obviously Harvey Barnes more direct forward playing strikers that like to get in line or as close to Vardy as humanly possible. But what that actually allowed Leicester to do was keep someone very central, keep that, taking the break out the situation when Leicester are just trying to build and these players aren't ahead of play. It forced Leeds back. It forced their high line back because Iheanacho was holding it not as deep as where Vardy would be. You normally see Vardy probably pushing it right back and, just sitting behind the defence to then get himself back on the side so he can turn and go at them. But it forced Leeds to drop their high line just a smidge, and it was very pivotal in the goal because when Leicester did break away, you actually saw the situation where Barnes and the other wide playing Lukeman, and I'll get rid of this high line, were actually, instead of like a Maddison who wasn't available today, obviously being saved hopefully for Rennes on Thursday, wasn't available, is he took that role really well. And it meant that Leicester didn't have Jamie Vardy there, like some people may have liked seeing them both play. But it also allowed us, because he was already on a high press and he was able to roll the defenders to lay the ball off to Harvey Barnes, who was the easier option and probably more in his eyesight. But what it did allow, and even though you didn't really see it in the goal because it wasn't really necessary with the way they linked up, is it then meant that while he was playing the ball into a Barnes that was open, Iheanacho was then able to accelerate and get himself ahead of the play so that they were able to then do the little link up, the nice little triangle pass, and the ball end up in the net. And that's actually where the goal came from, a different approach. Instead of trying to make Iheanacho play like he's Jamie Vardy, they actually used Iheanacho to his strengths. And weirdly enough, Chris, despite the raised eyebrows at the substitution, it was a great tactical change by Brendan as well as personnel. And that's where Leicester, mate, really won today's game.
Thank you very much. That's why Brendan is a football manager and I'm just sat here doing a little YouTube show.
And this is why I'm poor, because I should be demanding about 40 grand a week off Brendan Rodgers for these free tactics he's stealing. Come on, Brendan, get into the show.
Marty says, my player of the season so far. B-Com, Mendy was solid, deserves some praise. Did nothing wrong.
Came on your job. Fantastic move.
And I'm going to say, apparently now, Norwich are, well, you just bottom Norwich. And we're going to have a quick break and we'll come back and look at those fixtures that are coming up. But I think it's time to have a laugh at Norwich, isn't it?
Wow, I am not going to say anything about that video. No. I am just going to leave that there for people to just...
All I can say is that is where Dan got the idea to wee in the corner. That's what she was doing.
Norwich have a goal back.
You see, I G'd them up there. Jeff says, thanks for your technical analysis. Always interesting and I'm beginning to understand.
I'm glad you're coming on board.
Explain it to me, Jeff. Joking apart. Anyway, coming up, I mean, we will end on this now. I mean, if you look at our fixtures for the rest of March, we've got Arsenal away next week, Rennes away midweek, then Brentford at home. Then into April, it's Man United, Palace, Newcastle, Villa, Spurs, all we should play Spurs towards the end. But like I said earlier, none of those we should, you're not talking about a Man United, a Chelsea, a Liverpool, Man City in a run, So there's an opportunity that, if we struggle against some of the bigger teams, we have got and I know it's, I'm not being disrespectful. I know it's not done on paper, but you would hope that we've got a chance to make amends with the following match. I mean, how do you see that running?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's always looked on in a more positive or negative light, depending on how you're doing. And all of a sudden, Leicester are probably looking at run and going, well, we got our first win at the Emirates for about 40 years last season, and Arsenal are susceptible. So, there's no reason we can't go to Arsenal and get a positive result. And then you look at, in between that, you've got you've got I forgot the fixtures, but then you've got like a Newcastle Villa sort of period where you're, not Newcastle. All right, they're looking at a different team right now at the moment. But again, you feel that if you go into that game in confidence, they're not all away from home as well, so you're going to have that bounce as well, and it's a different approach for teams when it comes to it. And if Leicester come, like I said, Leicester come out of Rennes with, say, like, I don't care if it's a 1-0 win, a 2-1 win, or a 0-0 draw, positive result on Thursday. And if they suddenly follow that up, and then they go, well, hold on a minute, now Leicester are unbeaten before, they'll go into the Arsenal game, and if they can then nick a win at Arsenal, it's not a bad game to go into. It gets worse for Norwich because the goal they scored didn't count from VAR.
Talking of Norwich, that's one of the games we've actually got to be confirmed. We're also our first game against Everton, and of course the Chelsea one. So those are 3 games. But I mean, in May, our last three fixtures, as it stands at the moment, I mean, they may be added on more depending when those 3 games are going to be fitted in. We're at home to Everton. We host who could, they could be fighting for their lives still. We then travel to Watford, who could I would imagine if they're down, they'll be down by that stage, Watford. And that's never a good thing because once the team's down, they're playing with the shackles off. And we end up with a home match against Southampton, who that could be a battle for a Europa Conference place.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still talking. We've still got to remember that's still a long way off in terms of games to play before that. But then you could be going into that situation where then you're looking at who Wolves have got in that last 3, and you'll probably then, I don't know who Wolves have got. If you want to maybe quickly check up their last 3 games, but I'm looking at Wolves as a target team. You might then look at theirs, and then maybe if they've got a Chelsea or a Man City or something like that, again, depending on where their season's at, you might look at them thinking, well, hold on now, the impetus is with Leicester. But that's a long way off. But if you're looking at the hypothetical, if Leicester do turn this season around and get into that situation where they're in a shout of getting into Europe, or maybe they've just snuck in the back door of Europe. And of course, lo and behold, don't want to get too carried away, but maybe also they're eyeing up a European final.
Yeah.
Leicester would love to do both in that scenario. So it all depends where we are at that point. We could have just as much to know about as the next team that we're playing that week.
Apparently 4 to Chelsea now, and we are. I mean, normally, the point I was trying to get across is, obviously, normally we actually end up playing a Man United, a Spurs,
Chelsea, Tottenham.
Yeah. So it's not too bad. Wolves, actually, their last game is away to Liverpool. So
now it's going to go down to the wire.
No, I mean, you could actually be looking at the presentation match there, so they could well be up for it. The week before that, they entertain Norwich. The week before that, they're away to Chelsea. Before that, they host Brighton. So they're a bit like us, up, down with the teams, But
they've probably got a harder running. I'd look at that and say if Leicester get into a position where Wolves are, I wouldn't like to be too far out of. If they're in the realms of catchable, like maybe 1 or 2 points behind, you would look at them fixture list as a neutral and say, well, the impetus is with Leicester to go and nick that last European spot. If they win all their games, and you'd fancy Leicester to do that more than you would Wolves looking at them fixtures.
And it's still good, the fact that I'm looking at the table and I say the table's a bit of a waste of time at the moment because everybody's played a different amount of games, but we have got games on everybody around us, and that's the important thing. I don't care about having, we've got games to play over Man City. I don't care if we've got them over Norwich. It's, when you've got games in hand on the teams around you, that is the important thing. Brad, thank you so much for today. It's been great. 2 wins on the trot we've had to talk about. Dare I say we could make it 3 on Thursday?
Well, it'd be making it 4 in all competitions, but it'd be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to make that consistency and keep it going. And again, it would completely change the complexion around Leicester if Leicester suddenly go into the Arsenal game, suddenly going on an unbeaten run. It'd be nice. So let's hope we are talking about another big win.
Fingers crossed. At Fox's Focus is where people can find you. And I know you're all over different channels on here helping out. You're always on mine, so which is I'm always grateful for. Thank you very much. And you can be found on other people's channels as well. Mate, thank you very much. I will see you obviously next week. All the best, and up the Foxes.
Yeah,
two clean sheets. Thanks very much, mate. Take care.
Take care, mate.
Cheers. So as we go into the last few minutes here, so we've got Villa 4-0 up at Southampton, Chelsea 4-0 up at Burnley. Oh, Danny boy. Oh, Danny boy. Newcastle are still holding on at Brighton. It's been interesting if Brighton can get anything from that. Brentford have gone for Norwich. Oh, they haven't gone for Norwich. They've gone for them in a good way because Brentford are winning 3-0. And Palace are currently leading at Wolves. And can I just say, that is me buggered in the prediction league this week. So, hey, it was all going to come to an end at some point, wasn't it? Hey, thanks so much. Thanks to Jeff. Thanks to B-Crom, Scott in the chat. It was great having you on. Thank you very much for joining us. Anthony, I'll see you next week for the watch along. Looking forward to that. Jordan, thanks for popping in. Dan, who I'm sure is obviously he's off watching the match. He might be off having another hot chili challenge to try and forget the match for popping on. Anthony Herbert, Cyber Leader, Luckman, and Maisie Devils United. Louise, thanks for popping on. Look forward to seeing you next week if we can get that arranged. So when am I back? I am back from outer space. Just turn around now without that look upon your face. At 7 o'clock. And we'll be having a review. And it's always good. The opposition reviews are always good when we've won. So I will be doing it with KO92 on Twitter, which is a Leeds fan. Looking forward to that. And fingers crossed that he's still going to be able to turn up. At 9 o'clock on Monday, it's the big one. It's the big one. We have got Craig is taking on Dan in the Big Fat Football Quiz 2. And you know my quizzes. Well, the big and fat is me. The football link is a very, very tenuous. Go and enjoy match of the day. Enjoy tomorrow. Put the feet up. Get the beer in. Have a roast. Whatever you do, enjoy the weekend because Leicester. Are we back? Can I say that? Enjoy yourselves. But whatever you do, don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Don't forget that. Good night. Thanks for watching and listening if you're listening on catch up.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.